Okay, I'm going to quickly go over the summary of the lab. Remember, you can access this slideshow that gives help on how to do everything. This is primarily for first and fourth period, but this can help anybody that just needs a quick review of what we did in class yesterday or on Wednesday. So on Tuesday in class, we collected data of our movement across the football field. So if you were absent, then you're just going to copy this data right here into your lab area, into your handout. And if you were here, then remember that you need to, first of all, round your seconds to whole numbers. And second of all, if you have something like 1 minute and 19 seconds, that you remember that 1 minute is just 60 seconds. It's not 100 seconds. So you do 60 plus 19, which is 79, and you convert those to seconds. So that's your first step. Round your seconds and make sure that you convert any minutes into total seconds. That's going to make your life easier for calculating speed and for graphing later. After you do that, then you are going to calculate your task time. So remember, the only task time that is the same as the cumulative time is your first task, right? It took me 5 seconds to skip, and that means that's my total time for the skipping task. However, once I crawled and I finished at 17 seconds, it didn't take me 17 seconds to crawl or roll. It actually took me from the time I finished at 5 seconds to 17 seconds. So 17 minus 5 is 12. It took me 12 seconds to roll from the 15-yard line to the 25-yard line. So the way that you figure that out is you just, for whatever individual task time you need, for 2, you take your 2 cumulative time, and then you subtract the time from the previous task. And that you can see is the case for task 3. So I finished at 41 seconds, but 17 seconds had already passed before I started that task. So I take 41, subtract 17, and I find that it took me 24 seconds to complete my jumping jacks. You'll continue that trend to complete your entire individual task time row. If your data is messed up or you can't figure out how to do this, then you're simply going to copy, or you are absent, the information from this cheat sheet page into your page, right? So remember that the point of this activity is not for you to know how to collect your data and get your times exactly right. The point is to look at your motion on the field. So I don't want you to spend too much time. If you don't know how to use your data, just get a new paper and copy the data from this example page onto yours. So at this point, you should have all 4 rows completed. You're going to use the last 2 rows to figure out your individual task speed. So remember that speed is distance divided by time. So my distance for task 1 was 15. It took me 5 seconds. That's 3 yards per second. My distance for task 2 was 10 yards. It took me 12 seconds. So my speed there was only 0.8 yards per second, so even less than 1 yard per second. So I was quite a bit slower. You'll continue that. Remember that 0 divided by anything is always 0. So I moved 0 yards per second when I was doing my jumping jacks, which makes sense because I didn't move from the 25-yard line. I just stood there on the 25-yard line the whole time. So keep doing collect your speed, calculate your speed, and then you're ready to graph. When you graph, it's important that your y-axis, your distance from the end zone, is exactly like mine. The only difference is that you're going to continue your trend all the way up to the top. So your top number should be 50 yards. So you would go up, so you skip 2, and on your 3rd row, you're going up another 5. So that would be 35, 1, 2, 40, 1, 2, 45, 1, 2, and then 50 is at the very top. So you'll have 50 at the top of your graph. Now your x-axis is your time. So your time might look a little bit different than mine. You should have your finish time. I finished at 110 seconds, but you might have finished at 150, or maybe you finished at 80 seconds. So you will stretch out your scale to fit however long it took. If you took 80 seconds, then your 80 seconds should be towards the end of the graph. If you took 200 seconds, then you should have 200 seconds for the end of the graph. So your scale along the x-axis is going to be your own. Once you've figured out your scale, then it's time to graph your data. You are going to use your first two rows, your position and your cumulative time, to plot your points for x and y. Remember, time is the x-axis and position is the y-axis. So when I was at 5 seconds, I had gone 15 yards from the end zone. So at 15 yards from the end zone, when I was skipping, it took to get to that, to skip, it took me 5 seconds. Well, my 5-second mark is right about there in between this line and this line. So I put a dot there. I draw a line from that dot, from 0 to that dot, to get my line for skipping. Then from my skipping point, I moved to the 25-yard line. It took me to the 17-second mark to get that. So I find that 17 is right about on this line. So I go up, make a little dot on that line, and connect my end time from skipping to that next spot. And I will continue that trend. This is actually the point of what you are supposed to learn here. So I'm going to stop this and put this in a separate video.